The main objective of the BNC is to lay a firm foundation for cooperation and partnership between the two countries within the broader objectives of the African Union and with the focus of bringing Africa into the mainstream of global political, social, and economic developments. A total of 34 agreements and memoranda of understanding have been concluded since inception of the BNC, thus demonstrating the extent and depth of our bilateral cooperation. While we appreciate the existence of so many agreements and memoranda of understanding, we would appreciate more if their implementation could be intensified for the mutual benefit of the respective countries. We are happy that the bilateral economic relations between the two countries have significantly improved in the last 16 years, as evidenced by the growing bilateral trade figures and investment. More than 120 South African companies operate in Nigeria currently, a huge growth from a mere 4 companies in 1999. Nonetheless, there is room for greater business-to-business engagements, particularly in the areas Nigeria has identified as potential growth sectors. These include diversification of the economy, namely electricity generation and supply, agriculture and agro-processing, tourism development, including the hospitality sector, mining, banking, infrastructure development, aviation, manufacturing, and the automotive sector. We must strive for the diversification of our economies so as to cast the net wide enough to create more job opportunities for our people, to improve their living conditions and grow our economies through domestic resources in the first instance. In doing this, we would break away from the colonial legacy that turned Africa into providers of primary commodities and recipients of processed goods. This is important because the current state of affairs makes Africa vulnerable to the volatility of the international economy that sustains the uneven terms of trade. This diversification will go further to improve the impact that Africa can have in the global economy and to reconfigure the terms of trade. We must strive to bring the manufacturing plants closer to the sources of raw materials. South Africa and Nigeria can, to a large extent, complement each other towards the achievement of this objective. This current global economic climate, as the previous global economic crisis has exposed the vulnerability of our economies and currencies, and thus calls for concerted efforts towards South-South and intra-African cooperation. Economic cooperation between our two countries can therefore serve as bedrock of the continent's economic cooperation and intra-Africa trade. This is the kind of leadership Africa expects South Africa and Nigeria to provide. In this regard, South Africa's solid minerals mining experience can contribute to solid minerals exploration in Nigeria. Our experience in electricity generation can also be tapped into to assist in Nigeria's electricity generation, to name but a few. Also important is the need to improve people-to-people linkages. The South African Airways direct flight route between Johannesburg and Abuja, which commenced operations on the 26th January 2015, has added to the Johannesburg and Lagos route, which has been operational for a good number of years. The route indicates the growing relations between our two countries. It also provides potential to boost tourism both ways. It reduces travel time between Abuja and Pretoria for intergovernmental cooperation and boosts business engagements between the two countries. Ladies and gentlemen, the post-2015 development agenda, the Sustainable Development Goals, need to be led from the front by collaboration between South Africa and Nigeria on behalf of Africa, considering that we are the biggest economies on the continent. We should strive not to be left behind in the fourth technological industrial revolution. We need to take into consideration the need to be sensitive to new environmental dynamics such as those of global warming and alternative energy sources. Also important for us to take into account is that the creation of a stable and peaceful environment in Africa is a prerequisite to attract more foreign direct investment to develop African economy. South Africa and Nigeria's experience in the peaceful settlement of disputes, peace building, and peacekeeping missions is of utmost importance for progress in Africa. In this regard, South Africa has been re-elected into the AU Peace and Security Council at the recent AU summit held in Addis Ababa in January this year. We are ready to work with Nigeria to meaningfully feed into the work of the AU Peace and Security Council for the good of our continent. Your Excellencies, South Africa and Nigeria are strategic partners in the pursuance of the African agenda, South Africa cooperation, and in the promotion of rules-based international system. Both countries share a common vision on issues of political and economic integration in Africa, and on the need for a sustainable conflict resolution mechanism in Africa that is primarily driven by Africans. At the global sphere, we share a common vision on the need for the reform of the multilateral institutions such as the United Nations, particularly the UN Security Council. We share the views about the reform of the international financial institutions, the IMF, the World Trade Organization, and the World Bank, to be more reflective of the realities of the changed and changing international environment. Our two countries must continue to advocate for rules-based international system and must unite and work together in this regard in order to achieve a more just and equal world. Mr. President and honorable members of the Senate and the House of Representatives, Nigeria and South Africa must forge a strong strategic partnership. We need to strengthen our political, economic, and social and cultural cooperation. We need to advance the continental integration and transformation informed by the African Union's Constitutive Act. We need to unite and work together on the issues of peace and security. This should include the bringing into operation of the standby force and their capabilities. We commit ourselves to playing our part to achieve this. Let the citizens of Africa march together to defeat all those forces that bring harm and suffering to our continent. Let the citizens of the continent march together towards a brighter future, a future filled with prosperity and happiness. South Africa and Nigeria, acting together in unity, must play a key role towards the achievement of these goals and objectives. I thank you.
Thank you very much.